Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's time for the continuation of the round of 8. We've got a PvP tonight, a rematch of ASL long past. About 8 years ago, these two took each other on. In what season was that, Xun?
ASL Season 5, Sam.
ASL Season 5. Tonight, we're getting a rematch here between these two absolute godly figures of Protoss. Guys, PvP, not our forte. Us being both the Zerg players, you apes out there, I hope you'll forgive us. We're still learning here the ins and outs of PvP.
Yeah, it's a hard matchup to call, honestly. Probably one of the most rock, paper, scissory matchups we've got now that Zerg versus Zerg has been a little bit more figured out. But Saiyan, we've got Death Valley, game number 1, picked by Rain. This series is going to be nuts no matter what happens.
Yeah, I was shocked when I saw that, Xun. Death Valley game number 1 is pretty crazy. I'm so curious to see what he'll bring out there. It was so cool what Queen did on that map versus Best, but this is the only mirror matchup we have in the round of 8. It's kind of crazy that it turned out like this just by sheer luck, but here we are, Xun. We're going to have to eliminate a Protoss player today.
Right. I mean, the only thing you can be sure of is that a Protoss player is going to win today. That's the only thing we can be sure about. And Snow, honestly, is probably one of the better players to play against Rain in this mirror. Rain is an absolute god in this particular mirror matchup. His win record is off the chain, but Snow is like coming in close. He's approaching that 70% mark as well. So Snow, honestly, probably the best Protoss that could maybe take down this mirror matchup against Rain. My money would still be on Rain to win his 4-2 or 4-3. I just can't see Snow going the distance here, but we could see that.
Oh, I've got it for my boy Snow. I gotta support my boy. I carried the sign for him 2 seasons ago in the ASL live event. I was there in studio. I have a photo of it here somewhere, but I am a huge fan of Snow, and I really want to see him get his revenge here tonight. Lost in, what was that? You said season 5, so
yeah,
he's got those feels from way back when. Hoping he can take him down here, but I'm sure that he's feeling a little nervous.
Oh yeah. I mean, Rain is just so good in Protoss versus Protoss, and I think Snow, historically has had a little bit of problems with his nerves once he gets through to that round of 8 mark. So he does need to kind of keep his cool in this series and not let anything get under his skin. It's very likely Rain will do some shenanigans today that will really bother Snow if he's not got his mental game completely in check, and that could spell disaster. So he needs to just stay calm and collected if he wants any hope of clapping his feet together with a victory afterwards.
I love this guy so much. There he is on screen right now. Such an awesome character in Broodwar. Has a great stream. He's very funny. Has a super cute little kid as well. So he's a new daddy over here on the right-hand side. The villain here, Rain, driving his Bugatti to the event. This guy's a baller. He makes so much money doing streaming and live streaming and playing League of Legends. He doesn't need this event at all. He's like that one guy, just never really practices. He comes in and always seems to have like just casually be able to take games off of people who've been practicing their butts off. I don't know what that's about, Xun. I'm definitely not that guy.
Right, he kind of reminds me of Nada a little bit. Nada was a little bit similar. He was one of the only players that back in the day could take crazy games down despite pretty much not practicing at all. So, yeah, Rain's a bit of a genius in that regard. He probably plays only a few hours a day. Maybe he's playing a little bit more with his matches coming up in the ASL. Maybe he's putting in a few extra hours of practice than usual, but really not. Like, this is probably on the guys we've got in the tournament that plays the least out of everyone else. And interestingly enough, both of these guys are more or less the exact same age. They're both 32, so very well matched overall.
You got to feel for Snow here. He's been trying so hard. He's been playing so hard with a new baby.
Yeah.
He's been just grinding StarCraft games like crazy, and he could be knocked out. He could seriously be knocked out by this guy right here, who's been messing around with League of Legends and just totally casually going to just show up for the ASL. It tends to be that Rain doesn't practice as much, I feel, when he has a seed, because he doesn't have to get through the qualifiers. He doesn't seem to, spend as much time, but that's just my feeling. We'll see what kind of shape Rain is here today, because he's going to be pushed to his limit by Snow.
Oh, absolutely. Snow is probably one of the only Protoss players that could take a series off of Rain in this Protoss versus Protoss matchup. You'll see the statistics soon of just how good these guys are. It's pretty insane. Rain in particular, kind of like playing on a different level when it does come to this mirror matchup. I don't even know what to expect, honestly. I think Rain is going to really set the tempo with this map number 1, Death Valley, and come up with some shenanigans to try and get under the skin of Snow early on in this series and get into the driver's seat right away. I don't know if we're going to be seeing all 7 games being played, but I think Snow is one of the only players that is capable of taking it to that distance.
Dragoon Reaver is such a big part of PvP. I wonder if Rain can actually stand toe-to-toe with Snow in that Reaver control. He is so damn good. I think that's one of the big contributors as to why he has such a fantastic win rate in this matchup. But it's so true what you said earlier about how Snow tends to fall a little bit short. He gets a little shaky in these later rounds. The best of 7 format, I mean, it's a totally different story than these earlier rounds.
Yeah, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So not only does he need that really high level of execution, but his mental fortitude and his conditioning needs to be on point as well. It's kind of like being a boxer or an MMA fighter. It's one thing doing just one quick round of trying to punch each other out, but going multiple rounds over and over again, where you're really stressing both your mind and your body to the absolute limits of being able to play at a high caliber over and over again. It really does start to take its toll on you.
Oh, for sure it does. And we're getting a look at the map picks now. As you can see, Rain picked that Death Valley. All the other maps, pretty darn standard. That Death Valley map really is just the wildest one that we have in ASL right now, and it's quite hilarious that Rain picked that first. He must have something sneaky planned here. I can't wait to see what it is.
I mean, I was casting Bombastic Star League recently, a group with Artosis in it, and there was a Doodle and Dragon, and that was one of the most epic PvPs I've cast in a long time, and it was on Death Valley. So I have no idea what we're going to see here today, but I imagine it's going to be fireworks, guys. I've never been more excited for a mirror matchup, Protoss versus Protoss, in all my life. This is going to be crazy.
This is certainly not something we cast very often. PvP is a little bit out of our wheelhouse. Again, apologies to you great apes out there who are watching right now who might be wondering what we're talking about, or thinking that we don't know what we're talking about when we're talking about PvP. We're going to do our absolute best. Snow versus Rain on Death Valley. I just have no idea what to expect. It could be, like you said, a great epic match, but it could also be an insanely fast match if Rain has prepared something really aggressive.
Well, one thing I would like to see is if he does go for like some really heavy Dragoon focus opening to contain Snow and force Snow to take the inland base on the top right as his third, and kind of box him out from being able to expand on the rest of the map, and then uses that as like he can't really defend the top right lane and his main base simultaneously, and having to split your forces can be problematic in this map. So it would be interesting to see if Rain's got something prepared to like kind of contain Snow and not allow him to come down this mineral ramp, and instead be forced to expand on that what little 1v1 lane in the top right where there's only one additional base to take. So I don't know, this would be really curious to see if it's going to be some kind of like really drawn out containment play where he tries to take it the distance, or if he's got some really crazy early game cheese prepared.
It's cool how Deathmap is starting to kind of unfold for us here. And we got to see the first layers in those earlier stages, and on the ladder, if you've played it at all, you get a little sense of what it's kind of like. But here we're really getting a full unpacking of Death Valley. It really does seem like the right-hand side of the map is the island that's just open in the early game. And then the left-hand side is the main map. but it's closed in the early game. It's very interesting the way that they've set that up, and props to the map makers for continuing to improve on these and bringing us some really interesting ideas to this map pool.
Yeah, I love the experimentation the map makers have been doing. They've really reined it in. Like before, we had some really crazy maps like 76. I just didn't understand what the thought process was behind that whatsoever. But these maps make so much more sense. And I think these kinds of like experimental ideas, it's kind of like in the cooking world where you're preparing these dishes and you're trying to win Michelin stars. You're trying to experiment and innovate and come up with new ideas and new thought processes. But you don't want to be too crazy. You don't want to create a dish that's so wacky that people are just like, and they don't get it. So you want to be a little bit more contained with how much you experiment.
I think they've pretty much dialed that in now. Yeah, let him cook. Snow over here, taking a look at his PvP matchup. By far his best with 42 games, 71%. That's crazy to me. I thought that PvT would be better, but he is insanely strong. Just from my sense of Snow, I would say it's better, but yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, Snow's the only guy that probably could go toe-to-toe with someone like Rain. But look at that, 85%, 20 games, only 3 losses. You can really start to feel why this guy is so dominant in this matchup. It's going to be insane today if Snow can somehow overcome him. And if he does somehow beat him today, he's going to tarnish that record.
Yeah, only 20 games played, so if he manages to get a really solid win over Rain today, he will throw that stat down into the gutter. We'll see if that's even possible, though. Rain is looking confident. We're going to get into this game now, guys. Game number 1 on Death Valley. Oh, boy.
Boy.
Most of these series, Death Valley pick is way at the end, but here we're going to go right into it. Game number 1, guys. Round of 8, ASL Season 19. Snow versus Rain. Game number 1. Let's get it started. Here he is, Snow. In the top left, Rain. Bottom right. Packed studio, full house here. Of course, Rain, a huge streamer, definitely brings the crowds. Snow has his own following as well, but a little bit more of a niche guy than Rain is.
Yeah, he's certainly more entertaining, I would say, overall, but doesn't have as strong of a following. We'll have to wait and see if he can build a bigger fan base here today, because this just might be one of the most explosive Protoss versus Protoss we've ever had in ASL, potentially. We've got a probe moving out onto the map extremely early, making me think this is going to be some kind of 9-9 gate play, maybe in this natural location.
Yeah, it looks that way. The pylon is close enough. I think he could actually build something up there. I don't know if you can build in between those two assimilators to block right off the bat. I think you can. Is he in range to do that? This probe comes in and sees the pylon, but I think he saw the probe, Xun. This is a little bit interesting. He's just going to turn around and run back home with that? I mean...
I think he is. I think Rain was hedging his bets and built a pylon in the main base, being like, okay, there's a chance that he just sees my probe go into his main. So I think after seeing the pylon there, he has to like kind of change his game plan and send the probe back and just build the gateway in his main base. I think the plan was if there was nothing there to spot the probe, he could hide that probe in the main base, cancel the pylon in his main, and then do some shenanigans. But as it stands with that scout going off, there's no way he can pull the trigger on any kind of proxy like that, and instead just has to fall back on a slightly lower economy.
Okay, well, Rain's game plan just kind of went through the ground there. I'm not really sure what he's going to follow up with from here. He must have a secondary plan. I'm sure that wasn't his only gambit. It's pretty common, I think, that Snow would build a pylon out kind of near the front there.
Right.
So it's a little bit strange to me. Maybe Rain didn't prepare as well as I thought for this game. I'm not sure.
Well, The only other thing I can think of is that he was just making sure that Snow wasn't proxying him by identifying the pylon, but that seems pretty crazy that he would sacrifice that much economy early on just to scout that out. So I do think that he was maybe hedging his bets at potentially getting a proxy inside the main base of Snow and just wanted to have a backup plan in case that fell through. So we are going to be seeing a pretty much mirror build orders, but as you can see, like Rain already falling well behind the curve of the game slightly by a few seconds with that lost mining time of that probe. Like each probe is roughly about 50 minerals per minute of income unless it's the more optimized patches, so that's a pretty big deal to be scouting that early on and not really getting much from it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that much, but when it's one of your first, 5-6 probes, it really is a big part of your economy. And so Rain takes a big loss there. Snow didn't overreact at all seeing that probe. He sent the his own probe out and just had a look. Made sure that there wasn't anything being built on his high ground or anything like that. He's now going to kill his own assimilator and start to look towards this lower part of the map. Like I was saying before, kind of like an island on this right-hand side, and he really wants to get into the meat of this map. He wants to get down here onto the left side and start to expand.
But my curiosity was someone like Snow want to try and lock out Rain from that side of the map by getting out there first and trying to contain him and force Rain or something to expand to this like third base in the top right, for example. That's definitely a way you can play on this map. And if Snow does want to just lock himself out of this side of the map by killing off these assimilators, that would allow him to go for a similar game plan to that.
So the assimilators are funny here because you can definitely... Okay, he's going to kill that one. Now Dragoons can't move through. He can still put some Zealots between and probes, but he's actually just going to go ahead and kill both of these. I thought he was going to leave it on low HP. The assimilator is funny because it's a little bit smaller when it's been built than the Vespian Geyser. So once the Vespian Geyser is revealed after this assimilator is killed, then the structure is bigger and nothing can slip through there. But also, if you decide to lower the HP on that really, really low so that you can just kill it at a moment's notice in case there was an attack coming on the right-hand side, you might kind of screw yourself over because shields will regen on that, and then suddenly you can't kill it as quickly as maybe you wanted to, but that's not going to be the case here. Those have both been killed, and Rain's going to get in here and see that that's the case. So I think he'll just expand, maybe aggressively here on the right-hand side.
Yeah, I think this is Snow's game plan, is to force Rain to expand on this right side access, and then maybe we can abuse that by making it so that Rain cannot easily defend the third base and the main base simultaneously. Has to split his forces, and maybe Snow can abuse his Reaver control there and get inside the main base and really punish Rain if he's slightly out of position, dealing with harassment at his third as well.
No, you guys are asking here is, can you rebuild those assimilators? No, you cannot. Cannot rebuild those. Cannot be. It would be funny if you could. Then you could bring a probe over to the other side of the map, build 2 assimilators, and then running your Dragoons into their base. But yeah, not the case. Once they're dead, they're dead, and it is now half the map. Sorry, go ahead.
Snow is playing exactly how I thought he would this game, so I'm kind of happy that I called that this was the strategy. Now Rain will want to be expanding to this top right pocket, and that does kind of force Rain into a little bit of a weird situation where it's going to be hard to defend on this lane in the top right and keep army back in your main base to defend any kind of shenanigans from Snow there. Snow doesn't have to worry about the same kind of problem because his third is going to be right next to his natural, so in terms of who's got the positional advantage, it is going to be Snow. It's just going to be coming down to whether or not Rain can, properly optimize where his units are distributed to make sure he can weather the storm against any potential harassment without being caught off guard and out of position.
Well, Rain is playing this really smart. He saw what was going on from Snow. He immediately takes a third. This is a super early third in a regular PvP. This would never stand, but this third is coming down at such an early timing, and Rain may get away with it. He could get a big eco advantage. It's just he can't really take any more bases on this side. He actually has to come down if he wants to get a 4th base. He has to come down his own ramp, and Snow's just going to make that difficult. He's going to prevent him from easily mining that out. He'll have to build a shuttle, get over that wall, clear the Dragoon, and then he can start to mine that out.
Right. We got a nice observer snipe there from Snow, limiting the vision potential from Rain. Usually in this early games phase, there will not be a lot of action, just both players trying to get a positional advantage and deny vision from one another by sniping those observers, and so far that's going Snow's way. Just needs to be careful he doesn't get caught off guard and get a few units picked off. Got 4 Dragoons trying to move into this natural location, but with a Reaver here, should be fine. Rain will have to back up.
Rain gonna fall back. Here's some really good micro from Snow overall. He's gonna get this Dragoon kill, 2 Dragoon kills actually, only trading back 1. Might have been able to save that, but good target fire from Rain. Quite a lot of Dragoons out here with the 3 gateways on the line. We got a Citadel coming up, so moving quickly into DTs and likely Templars afterwards. Rain bringing a lot of forces over here to defend this third. He really needs quite a bit here to keep this alive, and it does seem like he's going to be able to save that. Snow's going to start to fall behind in macro overall. Oh, these Dragoons getting caught. This is really rough. A bunch of Dragoons are going to get caught on the wrong side of these assimilators. 2 go down, and yeah, this is pretty rough.
Ooh, Arbiter. Oh my gosh, Saiyan. He's going Arbiters. This is going to be crazy. This is going to be crazy. Rain is an absolute monster that's going to be doing something really risky, but potentially could spell disaster for Snow if he's not prepared for it. And I doubt he's going to be thinking that there's going to be a fast Arbiter play coming his way in this game. This is going to be absolute insanity, Saiyan.
Taking a page out of Best's book.
Yeah.
Although he did do it in PvZ. Still very rare to see Arbiter in this matchup. It does happen occasionally, but this is a crazy build what we're seeing out of Rain. He's going to mass up really quickly on 3 bases, and although Snow has more of the map, he's got that bottom left, or the left-hand side of the map, he's going to have to hold these Arbiters and possibly some big recalls coming into his main base while he's expanding on this side. Now he's going to crawl forward with these Reavers, a big drop into this main. Kind of a crazy play from Snow, but it's actually going to pay dividends here because he sees everything. He sees the Arbiter tech. Now he can start to react to it. Going to pick up his Reavers and just get out of dodge. This is all the information he needed. Not really looking for a huge amount of damage. He might lose this Reaver, okay? Gonna lose one of those shuttles. The Reaver gonna be targeted now. Will pick up the remaining Reaver and get out of here. Ooh, just barely escaping in time. Snow gets the information and gets out.
Yeah, Rain is just so smart. He understood the game plan from Snow, forced him to expand to the top right and try and expose the main. But Rain just, reinforced that main base with barely enough Dragoons to buy time for additional forces to arrive to deal with that threat. And now we'll be feeling pretty comfortable in this game after that trade. Snow's game plan kind of falling a little bit flat on his face for the time being. I don't know if he's going to be ready for this transition from Rain either. I mean, Reavers are really good in this early mid-game phase, but they don't scale super well. The guy that goes Templars will genuinely speaking do a lot better in the long run. And Rain's not only going to be having Templar tech, but Arbiters as well. So as long as you can somehow snipe the Observers, I mean, what do you even do in that situation? You can't even see the army that's killing you.
The 100 IQ play, or the 500 IQ plays to go for a Dark Archon in this situation. I'm totally joking, but feedback does work. Yeah, feedback it is as it comes in. Hit that feedback.
He's got so much HP, it won't still kill it though, unfortunately, but it will take out the energy from it at least and make it easier to snipe. Just like a sharking around the top lane here is Snow, trying to look for some damage on this third base. There is a cannon here and some Dragoons to try and reinforce it, but 4 Reavers might be able to chew through it. Oh, look at the flank from Rain, though, coming from the west and the east. Now trying to get on top of those Reavers as them targeted by shots. Not quite finding them, though. The splash damage on those Scarabs proving too troublesome to deal with, and we might see a snipe on this Nexus.
Ooh, this is a huge snipe. Absolutely massive snipe here. Picking that off. The Arbiter tech has not come online yet, and we're going to have Snow on 3 bases, just building up a huge supply. This Arbiter, I mean, it has to be used to recall, am I right? Like, you've got to get over there and deal some damage to Snow. Just having the cloaked army is not really going to help out too much in a situation like this. He's going to fly by with the Reavers now towards the natural, going for some big Scarab hits on some of these probes, but immediate reaction there. Can he get the probes heading into the main base? Oh, this is a lot of probes here, Xun. I'm a little bit worried for Rain. This probe transfer right there. If he targets it, he doesn't target. Oh my gosh, he could have gotten so many probes there.
Yeah, he did not get enough probe damage thus far. He's trading out some of the zealots and what have you, so that is actually currently leading in supply. If you can get out the base with these shuttles, that's not too bad. Also, can maybe try and get a snipe or cancel on this Nexus that's going up in the natural expansion for Rain. Probably will be able to clean that up before that transpires, though. So not going to be able to kill that Nexus. Oh, he might lose the shuttle. It's so close. He's going to lose the shuttle, and now these Reavers are kind of dead in the water. We'll be able to trade out against some of these units. He really wants to get the snipe on his observatory. That's going to be pretty critical. It'll make it a lot harder for Rain to snipe Snow's observers and get vision advantage with that Arbiter play. Now going to be also trying to come into the natural expansion area with some Dragoons to kind of kill the detection there as well of that cannon, making it even harder for any observers in the area to be punished. So Snow really trying to limit the potential of Rain in getting value out of these Arbiter play while also still enjoying his economy advantage right now with this 9 o'clock being mining away for so long. And so far, Snow is winning both positionally and in the economic curve of the game. There is a tech advantage for Rain, but he's not been able to leverage it thus far.
Hasn't been able to use any of these spells just yet. What are we looking for? Stasis on the Reavers? Is that a thing?
Potentially,
Never seen it before,
really
but that would be a pretty high value stasis, that's for sure.
And got some more Scarabs trying to find connections on these probes and that Nexus in this third base natural location. Hasn't been able to find that just yet. Needs to be super careful with these shuttles, though. Just one wrong move and Rain snipes these shuttles, and suddenly he's lost a lot of his army value, and we can see a lot more trades going the other way. Oh, look at Rain. He's going to be able to get the cancel on this fourth base location, killing that as well as a bunch of probes that are isolated over there. That's some pretty big value for Rain, but Rain's in trouble, even though he's supply blocking Snow right now. He's actually like 40 supply behind. He loses Nexus. Another Nexus going down for Rain is really troublesome for him. I mean, Snow is just out-muscling him in this game. This tech idea from Rain was a really nice idea, but so far, Snow has the better position and better production.
Just one observer with this army. He actually needs to keep that alive. Oh, there's that big stasis. Gonna get the full surround on the rest of this army. The Zealots can just clean everything up. You can also throw stasis down on the observer, mind you, if you can spot it. And that could come in clutch. But here comes more Reavers now over into this natural. The Dragoons are coming down a very tight ramp. Another great stasis. Oh my goodness. These stasis are really paying off. Gonna surround that army and try to pick off the shuttles right as soon as this stuff pops out, but the Reaver's pretty strong, can get a lot of splash damage here. Rain bringing up some more forces from that cleaning force on the right-hand side over here to deal with these units right as they pop into stasis. My God, stasis lasts for a long time, but there it is. It finally does finish. Does he target down the shuttle? No. Great control here. Another stasis on these Reavers. Can he keep it up, though?
This game is so hot, he needs some ice cubes in his drink, saying, I don't know, this is kind of crazy. I'm not sure this is good enough from Rain. He's stalling out, but this is still not enough value. He can't clear up the units after they pop out of these giant ice cubes. He does get the snipe on this Reaver and the shuttles on the exit, so that's a pretty good pickup from Rain, but he's still 40-50 supplied behind, and he still can't expand beyond his current natural expansion. This is problematic. He can't keep this up for much longer. He knows he has to get some ground and expand right now. This is about to thaw out another like 10-20 seconds. He should be able to clean up these units. I don't think Snow can get there in time to reinforce with his army. He's going to get the nice cleanup on aisle 5 there like we see, but it's just such a long time coming to get this expansion up and running, and Snow's already taking a fourth. I really love Snow's position here.
Yeah, and this is wide open on the right-hand side. We're going to see Snow send a Reaver over there, almost 100%. As long as he holds the counterattack, even that is not necessary, though. Yeah, there goes the Reaver heading over there. Just going to start cleaning up probes on that right-hand side as this attack is coming through. Rain just going to bail out, running away with the probes, going full on with this attack. Does Snow have enough to block it back at home? I think he does, but we'll have to see. Maybe he can snipe a couple of observers and make it really hard for Rain to clean up.
I mean, the Rain's been really tactical, trying to do like little Zealot hit squads to clean out the cannons so that later on Dark Templars can come in and clear out the probes. But so far, Snow's doing a good job of juggling that. Rain did manage to take out this third base at the 9 o'clock, limiting some of the economic prowess of Snow. Snow is still doing fine in this game. He's ahead on supply, he's ahead on bases still. Rain is in a little bit of trouble. He has to make something work soon. He has got this like tech advantage with this Arbiter play. If he can keep sniping observers and keeping his army cloaked underneath that Arbiter, he can still get favorable trades. Snow just has to be a little bit careful in how he controls his army and how he engages with Rain. He's going to be feeling great about this. But still, there is a way of Rain being able to outmaneuver Snow in this game.
Oh, is he going to go for the Arbiter? He's trying to hit it. He's trying to take it out. Two observers here. Great. Oh my gosh, dude, the stasis is insane right here. Oh man, this is crazy. How is he actually taking this fight? He's somehow overwhelming Snow. You've got to be kidding me, Xun.
This is the thing. Just because he's ahead of the supply doesn't mean he's going to win the game, right? Like, Rain does have the tech advantage. If he utilizes these statuses correctly, he can still find favorable trades. Snow might just barely be able to reinforce these stasis units, but it's going to be troublesome to get into that pocket to defend them with these Dragoons trying to screen them. Does manage to get a couple of snipes on these Dragoons maybe to start softening up this army. He needs more and more units. He's also got a much higher probe count than Snow, so it's kind of deceiving what the supplies say right now. They both got pretty relatively similar army supplies. Does manage to get one of those Reaper snipes on the exit of that station. Beautiful Scarab connection though, shutting down most of those Dragoons. Rain has to be in hot retreat now. Definitely Snow in a much more advantaged position still.
Dude, that one shot with the Reaver. I wonder if he has Reaver damage there. That was insane. What, 5 kills for one Reaver shot? Oh man, Rain really gonna regret not spreading out those Dragoons, letting them clump up like that. Snow is now in a pressure position. He's starting to force it down here. No more Arbiters, so no more of that tech advantage. No more stasis here. No more ice cubes are gonna save him. And he is just getting overwhelmed. Zealots jump on top of everything, but the Reavers do an excellent job of cleaning that up. There it is. GG. Holy.
Wow. Crazy, Saiyan. I mean, Rain had +2 weapons attack upgrade, whereas Snow had no upgrade. So the longer that game goes on, the worse it can get for Snow. But he did such a great job of securing more bases and harassing Rain constantly. I really do love the game plan of Snow a little bit more in that, even though there's some style points to be given to Rain for choosing that tech path, I really do love the positional advantage that Snow was able to muster and kind of limit Rain from coming out onto the map early on. And it did kind of hamper his economic prowess for most of that match. And I think that was an amazing game number 1 performance for Snow, really setting the tone for the rest of this series. That's such an important win.
Yeah, huge, huge. That was a wild game, guys. One of the craziest PvPs we've seen. Even though it didn't go long or late, that tech choice from Rain really made it interesting, and it almost looked like he was going to win that game, guys. It really did. Such a scary moment there when all of those units were popping out, but Reavers are pretty darn good, guys. That splash damage, absolutely killing it. Guys, we're going to take a short break here. When we get back, game number 2, Rain versus Snow. Okay, guys, we're ready for game number 2. How you feeling, Xun, after that first one? You awake now?
I'm more than awake, saying I feel vindicated as well. I called that Snow's game plan right from the start and how he'd be forcing Rain to expand to that top right pocket like that. Really stellar stuff from Snow. It's exactly how you want to sandbag the game plans of Rain and throw a wrench into his works early on and get that really important tempo swing in that game number 1. That's going to take the fire a little bit out of Rain's belly here. Rain, though, still going to be fighting back strong. Going to be having Eclipse in game number 2, but that's now Snow's pick. So he's already 1-0 up, and it's going to be his map, his game plan going forward. I mean, this series is going to be wild, Sam.
That's already been a lot of fun. Can't wait to see what he's got game number 2. We have to remember Rain opened with that crazy early scout and got spotted by the pylon. It's clear that he was going for something really strange that game, but it just didn't pan out. Curious what that was going to be, man. Had he not been spotted there, what was he going to try and get away with in that main base of Snow?
I mean, it could just have been 9-9 gates is the most likely option. I think the plan was to hedge his bets, and if he couldn't get the probe in there, to fall back like he did. But if he gets that probe in there unscouted, I think he's canceling that pylon in his main, and it's going to be some crazy 9-9 gate shenanigan to put on the pressure and keep Snow guessing the rest of the series what could be transpiring. Unfortunately, that game plan didn't quite work out. And him hedging his bets made him just slightly behind the economic curve of the game than he should have been, and gave Snow a bit more advantage to work with. Map number 2, Eclipse. This is going to be interesting. It's a 1v1 map again, like Death Valley, but obviously there's not as many shenanigans of being able to shut down. We're going to get straight into it, though, saying round of 8, ASL Season 19, Snow versus Rain. Map number 2 on Eclipse. Let's get it on.
Snow spawning over here in the top right. We got Rain bottom left. And speaking of 9-9 gate, this is a pretty good map for a build like that.
Yeah.
So many different lanes. You're not going to be scouting them all, right? You can place gateways on the top lane, the middle lane, the bottom lane. There's plenty of room to go for a build like that, but neither player is sending out an early probe. Looks like we're going to have bases built or gateways built inside their own main and going into a more normal game, perhaps, in this one.
This is a scary map to be aggressive on, though, Stan. With how the lanes are structured, you can't easily get your army back to defend or intercept the army movements of your opponent. So I think there's a very strong possibility that both players might be a little bit more passive in this particular map and just kind of slow things down a little bit and tentatively take their expansions very cautiously and not want to push out too aggressively here until they've got that speed shuttle upgrade online.
That may be the case. Haven't seen a whole lot of PvP on Eclipse, at least lately. Watch quite a bit of BSL PvP on this map, but I wonder how the game has evolved, how this matchup has evolved. It feels like one of the matchups that maybe has changed the least. Do you think that's a good characterization? Like, PvT has made so much evolution, and ZVZ is changing a lot too towards the later game.
You're absolutely right, Sam. It's still very rock, paper, scissory, so you have to kind of really cautiously choose which build order you take, and don't just do some crazy outlandish out of the box thinking, because you could just die straight up. So there's a lot of dotting of I's and crossing of T's before you say, like, take your expansion early and what have you. You can sometimes be a little bit greedy with that and try and do like a Forge expansion type play where you secure your natural base with cannons fairly early on to ward away that DTs. But then there's always that niggling doubt in the back of your mind. What if this is the one game my opponent goes DT drop? It's so uncommon, but the one time they do it could be the time you want to go for that Forge expand kind of style. So there's no real easy way of playing this matchup. There's always that like one route that leads to disaster and that rock paper scissor kind of style. So it's very difficult to get away with some out of the box thinking.
Well, in this match that has been so well figured out, both players practically mirrored in their builds, both having a little bit of scouting information here before the Dragoon comes, both making a Zealot so that Proxy Pylon's not as strong in this early game. Neither player throwing down a Proxy Pylon. It's kind of fallen out of favor recently. Not as many players going for Proxy Pylon anymore, but still making those Zealots just to make sure have that extra DPS to get rid of that if it was to come.
Yeah, the Mana Pylon used to be quite a staple, but I think players have just gotten a lot better at blocking it from going down in the first place and then having the Zealot early on to deal with that efficiently overall. A little bit of positional advantage for Rain here, trying to get on top of this high ground location to see if he can pounce on Snow being greedy by pushing earlier. But now it's actually going to tuck tail and run and allow Snow to come out across the map here. So this is an interesting play from Rain to kind of concede that territory. I'm not sure he's aware of exactly what production is available to Snow. He might be worried about additional gateways being online currently, and he's only sitting on one, whereas they're both on one gateway. Looks like Rain wants to be super greedy and take this natural expansion early on. This is usually not what you see in this matchup. This is an exceptionally fast expansion timing from him. And you might see why. If he doesn't somehow out-trade with Snow soon, Snow could just bully him and come down and potentially get a snipe on this Nexus, because Rain has to commit to the holding on the low ground. He can't just retreat to his high ground ramp and get defender's advantage from that anymore. Now he has to commit onto this low ground area, and that gives a bit of a win condition for Snow going forward once he identifies this.
We're going to probably see 2 or 3 more gateways added on with this from Rain. Bit hard to go for this economy and tech and still have an army. Can't do absolutely everything at once. So he's going to sacrifice tech here, assuming that Snow is not going for DT and not going to take his own Nexus. He actually scouts that. Very nice scout getting into that natural, seeing that there's no Nexus there. A Reaver is on the way, and so Snow will have a moment here where maybe he can bust Rain wide open. He goes for the Robo as well. All right, the option for busting here is pretty wide open. Snow's gonna take his own Nexus. Interesting. So we're just gonna have Snow fall a little bit behind here. He's gonna cede control to Rain and just try to get this Nexus online a little bit later.
Yeah, he played safe with the Observatory before support bay, so I don't think he thinks there's a timing to punish this, at least for the time being. Sometimes you will be super greedy and open up with the support bay right off the get-go and get an earlier Reaver, but it's less common. You need to be safer against a DT play. He didn't identify the expansion from Rain for quite some time, with Rain skirmishing out on the map at that high ground area, delaying the scouting information for Snow just long enough that he can't pull the trigger on committing to a bust by throwing down additional production facilities and getting that support bay out early. So instead we'll be relegated to just expanding and playing a little bit behind curve here is Snow. Nothing too crazy, but we did see how much a tiny economic difference in that game number 1 can make in this matchup. So maybe this is all Rain needs to start to get ahead in a commanding lead.
Well, Rain coming out on the map now. Snow making the right choice. If you can't bust, then don't. Just gonna sit back here, build his own Nexus, and try to play a little bit from behind. He is so good with the Reaver control. He should have advantage in these kind of mid-game fights where either side has Reaver, but that's not a sure thing. Rain is kind of crazy when it comes to his control overall. Might be able to match Snow in this Dragoon Reaver control. Really, nobody else, I think, on the planet can say that, but I believe Rain really does have the ability to kind of match him in that.
I think Rain just has really good intuition on what he should be doing when he kind of can just look at the game state, look at what units are on the screen, and just instinctively know what to do. Needs to be careful of coming up on this low to high ground transition. That is pretty favorable for Snow, but Rain wants to push the issue. Pretty good micro from Snow, getting some exit kills, but Rain with a slight advantage, trying to push him back all the way now, getting a Dragoon on the exit as well. Pretty favorable trades for Rain going forward, and with this economic advantage, is looking pretty okay in this game. Snow will maybe feel a little bit of pressure to make up that deficit by being aggressive himself now. With this shuttle and 2 Reavers, see if he can come out onto the map and get some positional advantage and get some better Scarab connections than Rain can muster. Snow did see that shuttle move out with his own observer though, so he knows that these units are out on the map.
Looks like Rain moving towards that 3rd base. Not sure if he's ready to take that just yet, but he's got pylons scouting for a Reaver that could potentially be sent into this main base. He's got everything set up for a drop, knowing that Snow might get desperate here, being behind in supply and kind of losing out on some of these fights, and the build order in general. Might just throw in some Reavers, kind of Hail Mary play, try to get something done, and so he's preparing for that accordingly. Going into this middle ground here to get rid of the Observer now, but Rain has a bigger army moving forward. He's got to be very tentative, very careful with this. If he loses this army, if Snow loses this next fight, we might see Rain just come across the map and bowl him over.
Yeah, there's a probe that was making its way to the top left, either to throw down spotter pylons or to take a ninja expansion. Rain actually intercepted that and got a snipe on that. A little bit annoying for Snow. And he's actually trying to get a run by with his army out onto the map, and now he's going to be punished because there's nothing here to defend against this Reaver harass of Rain. Oh, Rain just taking a massive Scarab connection, losing most of his probes. Snow really has a strong damage potential right now. Needs to try and get these probes in full evacuation mode to get away from these dangerous tech units of Snow. This is crazy damage early on, but Rain now going to be running into the natural expansion of Snow and trying to get some compensation for losing this many probes.
Yeah, he is hitting this natural. We weren't getting a shot of it there. Snow falling apart on his side of the map. Everything getting up onto this high ground. That's a lot of Dragoons, guys. That is a huge number of Dragoons. This Reaver pops out on the side of Rain. Snow could juggle his Reaver and actually take out the Reaver of Rain. That is a possibility, but he's not paying attention. Oh boy, he loses one of his Reavers. That's really bad for Snow. He desperately needs to keep this one alive, and it really does seem like Rain is going to be able to clear out everything. He's got more Dragoons, he's got the Reavers still, and he's got so many Dragoons and Dragoons on the opposite side of the map. It doesn't seem like Snow will be able to take this one. Pulling the probes, pulling the boys. There's the Reaver. It's time to tap out.
This is crazy. GG is called by Snow, and Rain ties up the series 1-1 with that backstab counterattack. He just knew that Snow was aching to get in there and find some compensation and smooth out the curve of the game for himself, and was ready to pounce at a moment's notice to get on top of that production line of Snow. There were so many gateways from Snow that he'd just thrown down, but it took him a while to actually start firing on all cylinders and getting those producing additional units, so he couldn't have anything back at home to defend at that critical moment. Really well played from Rain in securing the tempo of this match yet again.
I would have loved to see the engagement in Snow's natural. Unfortunately, we're not going to get a replay of that. Snow might have had a Reaver in there. If he had a Reaver on high ground and just blocked his ramp, pretty good chance, you know, he would lose his Nexus, but maybe he could have held things and been in a bit of a better position. Unfortunately, let everything die there in the natural, and Rain just, with the counterattack, bowls him over. Now with a 1-1 score going onto Rain's map pick. Kind of funny here, both players taking a game on the opposing player's map pick. Now we're going to Rain's Metropolis. How's this one going to play out?
Well, this is going to be a crazy map as well. I mean, you're going to have to build pylons at the very edge. It's like a gigantic boot for a main base. Massive space saying, but don't go anywhere, guys. We're jumping right into it. Round of 8. ASL Season 19. Rain versus Snow. Map number 3 on Metropolis. Let's get it on.
Snow spawning bottom right. Rain over here in the top right. Metropolis is a fun map. I've been enjoying it a lot so far. There are some interesting features here. Lots of space in behind the natural. You can see some shenanigans there. Also, this boot-shaped main base. Very good for drop play. Very fast probe here from Rain. Is this it? Is he finally going to proxy? He was looking for it game number 1. He's actually going to go for it here in game number 3. Will Snow be able to find this? Can he react properly to it? Putting the gateways at bottom center. This is a big risk. It's a 2 out of 3 chance that Snow is on the bottom side of the map, and he's taking that risk right now.
Yeah, there's a 1 in 3 chance that he guesses wrong and he's in a little bit of trouble. Say if Snow was in the top left, it would just take so long for these Zealots to get up there and do something. So he's hedging his bets by, taking a 2 out of 3 chance here, and picks the right door and is going to be able to have a chance of doing a lot of damage early on. But who knows? Snow might be smelling this out. He saw the early probe scout on that map number 1. He knows there's a strong chance of a 9-9 gate from coming out at some point in this series. And I mean, Snow could just throw down 2 gateways in his main. Usually you don't do that unless you're feeling like you're the weaker player of the 2 and you want to kind of, hedge your bets against early shenanigans by making a early 2 gates in your main. You don't usually see that at the pro level, though. It's usually always a 1-gate tech style, and it's going to be this today. He can still defend this. If he gets a pylon close to his ramp as well, the shield battery, he can still hold the line with Zealots pumped off 1 gateway to be able to deal with this. But still, Rain has a chance of just ending the game super quickly with this Zealot pressure.
He absolutely could. He's already in here. He's spotted everything. He's breathing a sigh of relief that Snow's not over in the top left-hand corner. That would have been pretty bad. Bottom left would have been not optimal, but honestly, he's got the best possible spawn. He put the gateways over on the right-hand side of that bottom center. He gets the proxy pylon. This is what I was wondering. Was he going to proxy pylon, and would Snow be able to block it? He gets the proxy pylon in. This is all going according to plan so far for Rain, and Snow, he's got to be sniffing something. He's smelling some sort of cheese here, but he's not sure exactly what it is just yet.
Well, yeah, because Rain can use, if you don't kill this pylon, Rain can use that to put down his own shield battery inside your main base as well. And now he's going to try and do a pylon prison on this gateway. He can put a 1-point pylon to the right-hand side, and then a shield battery underneath that to block the Dragoon as it pops out. He's aware of that. That's why you see a shield battery coming out to block that location himself to make it harder for him to pylon wall in that Dragoon. And now we're going to try another pylon prison on the right-hand side. He can block that Dragoon in with another pylon on the right. Snow trying to block any possibility of that going down by keeping probes off the line. Shield battery does finish now for Snow, but now the pylon prison is complete. The next Dragoon will be trapped, so this first Dragoon has to do a lot of work to make sure he can keep these Zealots at bay.
Absolutely sick so far. The control from Snow has been outstanding, keeping most of these probes alive and doing some dancing on top of the Zealots. Now some probes are going to start to fall here, targeting down a few of those, but it's not critical damage just yet. That's quite a bit of investment, building 3 pylons here initially for Rain just to trap this Dragoon in the corner. He's going to take this fight now, utilizing that shield battery pretty well. Another probe goes down, but he can keep this Dragoon alive for quite some time with that shield battery, and he's doing a really good job of holding this. I think Snow's done it. He's handled it very well. He's going to keep himself alive. He's even going to keep this Dragoon alive, I think. That's crazy.
This attack for Rain would have only worked if he had his own shield battery up in time to start juggling the HP on his own Zealots, and he didn't quite get that shield battery made in time. He has to tap out. GG is called, and Snow with the 2-1 advantage in this series, making it look easy. This is crazy. You can see Rain there biting his finger and tilting his head like, geez, I kind of needed to win that game. Now what?
That was pretty sick. That Dragoon hopped over the wall there at the end. The Zealot was pushing it right into the corner, and he hopped out of the prison, freeing himself there. The very end of that kind of crazy rush from Rain. He got everything he wanted there, Xun. Everything went perfectly. That was a A real gamble of a build, but even with everything going his way, wasn't able to take down Snow. That's got to feel a little bit bad for Rain.
It is really problematic for Rain. It's a shame because he had the right game plan to make that work, but he didn't get the shield battery alongside that pylon prison on the gateway. So while he was able to lock out one of those Dragoons, he didn't have the sustain needed in his own Zealots. And the pro pull from Snow was so good in helping out dish out a little bit of damage and screening against those Zealots. He minimized the losses to the initial Zealots as well. Very impressive play from Snow, showing that how adept he is in controlling his units. He can go toe-to-toe with Rain in these series. You might be having a game 7 no matter who wins.
That would be incredible. I'd love to see a game 7 here. But still a long way to go, guys. That was a very fun game, continuing the trend of losing on maps that they pick. Kind of hilarious so far. But we'll see if that continues next. Yeah, Snow, he's picked the next map. Is he going to lose?
I mean, that would continue the trend. So, yeah, that's where my money would be. Rain's going to have to dig deep after that. He's going to be maybe feeling a little bit salty that he kind of guessed right, had everything planned, but couldn't quite execute. I mean, and that's the nature of StarCraft. You can have the best laid plans, but unfortunately, if you don't execute well, you're still going to lose the game. And Snow's doing an absolute masterclass and just keeping his wits about him thus far and is not letting anything get under his skin and is reacting appropriately. Every time Rain is asking a question of him, Snow's got all the answers.
We've got our promotional segment here for the Hot 6 drink. Something funny that's going on in my life recently, guys. I started doing rice farming here in Japan. Been doing planting recently, and one funny thing, Xun, is that one of the people at the rice farm is his name is Shunsuke. So I'm riding on the tractor with Xun during the week last week. Pretty hilarious. Just kind of strange the way the world works.
Yeah, man. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. Some of the shots you showed me of your new digs. I think it's good to be out in nature, be out in the world. I think that's one of the things we do wrong in society, saying is we're not in touch with nature at all. There's no sense of community. We don't help each other, but working on a farm or something, that definitely helps get you back to your roots as humans. And I think that that might be really good for your mental health long term.
It's all about balance, Xun. Playing lots of games, watching a huge amount of StarCraft. We got to get out and touch grass every once in a while.
Oh yeah,
these guys are just going for it today, man. Is this a challenge now? Are they announcing this, or are the people just doing that just for fun?
There's definitely some kind of social pressure that's making these guys full suit. You know, I mean, it definitely seems to be some kind of game going on where if the camera swings to you and you're holding a hot 6, you better start chugging and get the crowd on your side. You don't want to be the guy that can't manage it.
Seems that way, Xun. We're going to have a little commercial break here, guys. We're going to take a break as well. As soon as we get back, jumping into this next game. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, guys. We are back. Snow in a bit of a lead now. Rain did not work out. His game plan on Death Valley and his Proxy 2 gate there, the 9-9 gate. Everything's kind of gone wrong here. Is it time to switch it up? Go for some more standard play. We're going to see it here coming up in this next match. We got Snow's pick, Deja Vu. It's coming right up.
It's going to be so exciting, saying to see what these guys have got planned for us. I doubt it's anything too crazy. Okay, we're going to be jumping straight into it, guys. ASL Season 19, Round of 8, Snow versus Rain. It's going to be map number 4 on Deja Vu.
Cross map situation. Snow top right, Rain bottom left.
Okay.
Should be interesting.
Yeah, I think this might be the slowest game of the evening thus far. I don't think either player is going to be too hyper aggressive with these spawns. You can sometimes like gamble a little bit with your move outs. We saw Rain go for that on Eclipse, where he just kind of knew that there'd be a counterattack from Snow, and he went to punish anyway and just allowed the Reavers to come in and pulled his probes. You might see something like that on this map, especially if we see an early third base from either side to try and punish that. But generally speaking, this map can be a little bit slow with cross map spawns.
Well, Deja Vu, this high ground rim around the middle of the map is going to play a really big role. There's plenty of ups and downs when you're crossing this map, and so that might come into play. There's also been a change center here on Deja Vu.
Right.
From previous seasons, they've updated it. There's now like a little bit of doodad, or there's some doodads going on in the middle that could kind of block units and that kind of thing. So we'll see how this plays out here. That might come into effect. There's also less buildable terrain on that high ground ring, but doesn't really play out too much in PvP. We're more likely just going to see big battles between Dragoons and Reavers, and these high grounds become the most important part of the map.
By the way, Snow is doing a much better job of optimizing his mining in this game. It is harder to optimize your mining on the left side of the map, especially bottom left, but you can still do some manual tricks to boost your minerals up a tiny bit. But Snow getting better in the stick with the mineral optimization thus far in this game. Not by much, but anything helps in the game of StarCraft. Sometimes, you know, a second can make the difference. It's that crazy. We'll have to wait and see if either one of these players want to do anything too crazy in this game in terms of like a DT rush or something. That's a little bit of a gamble. Both players will usually go for a fast robo observer play to be safe against that. So we'll be curious to see if either one of them wants to try and bite the bullet and go for something crazy like a fast DT play.
First probes are heading out. Snow gonna scout cross map. He's been doing this so much lately.
I like this.
I've seen him
so
cross
good.
scout very often, and he's actually going to get in here with the Zealot on the ramp. He actually won't be able to go up that ramp. Neither player going to get full scouting information, but he's going to find his opponent first. But
let's think about this for a second. He has a chance of scouting the 9-9 gate in the center right away, but then also will know whether or not he's close positions or not, and that can change things up a lot. If you know that the other guy is close positions, you might want to be a little bit more hesitant about the build order ranges, for example. With cross map, you've also got a little bit more time to prepare, and you've got a bit more defender's advantage to work with. So knowing that it's not close spawns, and scouting them early on, and having the chance at scouting the early 9-9 gate in the center, I do like that choice from Snow.
It's worked out pretty well for him so far. Honestly, he's been getting pretty lucky with it so far in ASL. And we've got first couple of Dragoons coming out here on the map. First Dragoon, who's going to get the first hit? Looks like Snow will get that first hit. Time to run. Rain going to have to back off here. Take the loss in vision. Oh, missed shot there. Missed shot. Oh, he's going to get the full scout. Rain getting pretty lucky here with that missed shot. Will get all the information necessary.
Yeah, and Snow could have blocked that as well. A little bit of a misstep from him not to deny this probe getting it. It's not the end of the world, but it's such a sigh of relief for Rain to see the exact tech choice of Snow and be able to take this natural expansion safely, knowing that there's nothing crazy coming his way.
It was a very similar situation that we saw in game number 2. Robo on the way here for Snow. Will he skip Observer this time and try to go for a really quick Reaver, try to put some pressure on? Or is he just going to try and get his own Nexus online? He's already pushing out with a lot of these Dragoons for Zealot here as well. 3 Dragoons. What seems like it's going to be about 3 to 4 Dragoons from Snow. Pretty risky to take a fight here, but he might be willing to take this fight. Oh, he spots a Dragoon on the right-hand side. Not able to get on top of that, though. Rain, very quick pullback there. What about the probe, Xun?
I just thought the probe was interesting. I wondered if that probe can't have been a mistake. I thought maybe he was considering proxying something out on the map, like additional gateways, and pulling the trigger on like an all-in where he just makes loads of gateways. But the probe weirdly just came to the center of the map and then went back again. I can't imagine that was a missed rally. It looked like he was thinking about something. He's got this other probe out on the front now with this army. I don't know what his game plan is, or maybe he just wants to be able to build a pylon, an AI pylon at the bottom of this ramp to be annoying. That's also a possibility to help contain Snow. Also can use that probe to body block and make it difficult for good connections with those Dragoons from getting the surface area required to snipe Dragoons and what have you. Sometimes a single worker can be the difference. You see that on maps like Fastest a lot, where a single worker can really like body block and cause nightmares if you're not paying attention to your units, and that can happen in 1v1 games here as well if utilized correctly. You just don't see it that often.
There's the robotic support bay. We're going to have Reaver here shortly. Snow with the slightly later Nexus will have the slightly faster tech, but...
Snow doesn't see those probes, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
He doesn't even see those probes. That's a big mistake. Yeah. That's crazy. That rarely happens in StarCraft, where his eyes are just not focusing because it looks like it's part of the building slightly. He's kind of just glossing over that. So a lot lost mining for Snow here. It's going to take him this 5th probe to notice because it's more outside of the building's unit sprite. So he now will notice and send all those probes to mine. I imagine after that 5th probe was off to the bottom right, he should be able to know. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, a little bit of lost mining time for Snow, and that can make the difference in this series. Like when both players are hammering out their builds as solidly as possible, if one guy has got like 4 or 5 probes not mining for a while, that can make the difference.
Reminds me of that game versus Soulkey on Blitz Y, where he didn't mine that gas for nearly the whole game. Snow does seem to make some of these mistakes a little more often than a player like Rain, and so maybe nerves playing a bit of an issue. He does have a lead right now, so he should be feeling pretty good, pretty confident. However, this guy, his reputation precedes him. Rain is such a beast. Even when things are going well, sometimes you can start to feel a little bit nervous, especially in-game, right? If you start to get a big lead, occasionally players will just fall apart because they're like, wow, I'm not supposed to be winning this. I'm ahead, but I just need to close it out, and they start to fall apart, start to lose control of the game.
But sometimes it's just complacency, where it's harder to know what you need to be working towards when you're so far ahead. When you're behind, you kind of know that you're up against it, and you got to play with a sense of urgency and make the right decisions to not die and to also put yourself into a more favorable game state later on. When you're ahead, it's not always obvious what the win more button is, and you don't play with the same kind of sense of urgency to get there. Probe Scout going to be taken down by Snow, denying that vision. He doesn't know whether or not there's a 3rd base coming out from Snow, but there's not. This is just a 2-base timing, hoping that Rain tries to take this 3rd base, and he's waiting to punish and wedge between the armies and come down to this 3rd base location.
Army's a little bit split here for Rain. That could be a flanking force to be used a little bit later on, but Rain could actually end up losing a lot of these units. 4 Dragoons is kind of a big part of this force right now. He's trading out 1 goon. Looks like he managed to kill just 1 unit there, and Rain just heading straight across the map. A shield battery here in the natural force Snow is kind of kind of interesting. I'm not sure exactly what that's for. Maybe for that counterattack potential. But Rain gonna get in front of him, between him and his natural. That's pretty interesting. Rain going around the side here. Gonna be spotted by the observer right as this is coming into the natural. He will be able to block that out. Snow's goons getting stuck out on the map a little bit. He's actually running down towards the bottom right here. Gonna lose 2 goons, so kind of losing the advantage there that he gained by trapping those 4 Dragoons at the bottom right, or bottom center, excuse me.
Right.
Things have evened out quite a bit. Here comes the drop. Oh, he almost loses that shuttle. That's huge. If he loses that shuttle, Snow could be suddenly in an advantage, but Rain is making some great moves and forcing Snow to react.
Yeah, so far so good, but needs to make sure he's got good control. There are 2 Reavers to try and stop these Dragoons from being bullied, but if he does split the Goons up well enough, he can still overwhelm this force. Snow knows that. He tucktails and runs and waits for more additional reinforcing Goons to show up. Hasn't quite got Zealot speed, but has got a few Zealots coming out to tank damage as well. Rain wants to push the issue and doesn't look like he wants to expand just yet. He will probably take it at 3rd base soon, but for the time being, wants to try and push up onto this high ground location and get a position of violence, trying to wrap around from the right and the left, forces Snow off the high ground, and now Rain will be camping this high ground and trying to drive a wedge between the natural and the 3rd. He knows that there's a chance of there being a 3rd base coming up from Snow, and there is right now. So if he does get this positional advantage and keeps Snow pinned back, eventually he can just get a tactical snipe on that base later on.
Gonna go for some shots here, try to trade out while the opponent's not paying attention. Took some damage from that first Scarab. Snow a little bit too quick for something like that to happen. We saw earlier him preemptively, gaining some momentum with that shuttle, so he just barely was able to run away from that big Dragoon surround. If he had been stationary... Oh my gosh, he gets a Reaver! Yes, indeed, that Reaver control from Snow is starting to play a bit of a factor here. Dropping in the natural, gonna get huge kills on this probe line. Fantastic damage there for Snow, and he's gonna be able to fly into the main as well. This Reaver still full HP. That shuttle still very high on all of its stats. Oh, and he's gonna get the shuttle here in the natural as well. Baiting Rain a little bit, making him pay attention elsewhere, and then goes in for the kill. Killing the shuttle is huge. Now the Reavers here have way more mobility for Snow. He's going to be able to take this fight easily, pushing back Rain. Dude, Snow's playing out of his mind right now. He's completely cleaning up everything, and he's going to get a huge shot on these probes, no doubt.
This is crazy. That Reaver is still alive and denying mining at the bare minimum in that main base. Does get a tactical snipe on that 3rd base, does Rain. So has got a tiny bit of compensation, but there's so much tempo advantage for Snow right now. He is crushing it. Rain is in disarray. He needs to establish some kind of control in this game yet again, but that's going to be so difficult. He's got to run into the main base with these units to deal with this Reaver right as the army of Snow is showing up at his door. And Snow's Reaver control has just been exceptional this game. And he's going to get a pounce on top of these other 2 Reavers that have just popped out as well. So far, Snow is playing out of his mind. Some reinforcing goons from the rear, trying to come in and help. Not able to be too successful in doing that, though. The juggling of Reavers has been phenomenal from Snow in this game, and really getting the better of Rain. And Rain's just not able to keep up with him. Currently doubling his supply is Snow. Looking fantastic in this game, at least.
Yeah, Snow is crushing right now, and he's going to kill this 3rd base, no problem. Plus the Forge as well. The control is mental. Snow is doing such a good job keeping this Reaver alive, and we're going to see a counter drop now into the main base. Will Snow react in time? Dragoons are reacting, being sent up here. He actually goes towards the natural. A little bit surprised there for Rain. Didn't go into that main base where so many of the probes are actually just finishing up their mining. That base is going to mine out here soon. Good splitting and utilization of that shield battery. Shuttle is super low. This is not the damage Rain needs. This push coming in with the extra Reavers is going to be really scary. Gonna try and dive on top of that. Snow's so good at dodging these shots. He does lose 1 Reaver, but all the Dragons are going to go down, man. This dive was not worthwhile, and Rain taps out. Unbelievable win here for Snow. Now up 2 games in this series. That is incredible.
Yeah, it takes him to a 3-1 advantage going forward. This is insane. He puts him on match point. I didn't think we were going to be seeing something like that. I knew there'd be a chance of it going the distance here, but Snow is in the driver's seat right now. He just needs to not choke. The likelihood of him winning this series is so high as long as he doesn't choke, because it's very difficult for Rain to win 3 games in a row in a kind of like a rock paper scissory kind of matchup like this. And I think Rain might even be a teeny tiny bit tilted from those games. He's sighing a little bit. He doesn't quite look as confident as he did at the start. And Snow, he usually does fall apart a little bit at this stage in the tournament. Round of 8, round of 4, he usually doesn't perform that great. But today, he's definitely disrupting that usual pattern and is coming with new fierce tenacity that we haven't really seen from him at this stage in the tournament in a long time. He's definitely one of those players that could go all the way as well. I'd much rather Snow advance than Rain. Rain has 0 chance against Sulky, whereas Snow here, he might have like a 10, 20, 30% chance in that finals match. Who knows? Anything could happen. So I really do hope that Snow is the one to advance. Look how tilted Rain is, by the way. He's definitely unnerved by how this series has gone.
He's tilting his head to the side there, sighing. He doesn't look happy at all with how this has gone. And Snow's on the cusp of getting his revenge for that Season 5 finals. He lost versus Rain. I believe it was, 3-1? Back when they were doing best of 5. So here in the best of 7, just needs one more game. If it was still a best of 5, he already would have taken this one home. One more game, and he can get his revenge. He is so very close, guys. We're about to hop into this game. Rain's pick on Polestar. What is he going to pull out in this one? Is he going to go for some cheese? Sometimes when you're super tilted and you just can't handle another long game, it's a good idea to just pull something crazy out, try to get a quick win, and get the momentum back. I wonder if that's how Rain's feeling right now.
I mean, Snow might be thinking about that and might be prepared to deflect it. He did handle that 9-gate on Metropolis, 9-9-gate, really powerfully well. Like, I've never seen anything quite like it. So I do think that overall it's going to be likely to be a Snow victory here today. But I would love to see it go the distance into game number 6, game number 7. But I don't think that's going to be happening. Just look how tilted Rain is. But here we go, guys. It's going to be potentially game point here. ASL Season 19, Snow versus Rain, and the map, Polestar. Let's get it on.
Snow spawning here in the top right. We've got Rain down here in the bottom right. Oh, a pause to start things off. We saw as the game was getting ready to start, he was checking his headphones there. I was talking to the ref. Something going on with his sound, most likely. He's just going to have it sorted out here, guys. Just a quick break.
That was the same setup that Jaedong had, I believe. He was at the same place that Snow is in. I wonder if there's something wrong with that rig or something, because that's where Jaedong was sat last time, right?
I'm not sure about that, but could be the case. Anyway, things are going to get sorted out here quickly. It's nice to have a pause this early in the game if they need to reset. No big loss there. Nobody's even discovered what positions anybody's in or anything like that. So let's just go ahead and figure things out here before things get too complicated. It always is a shame when we have to restart games, guys, especially when things are progressing into the mid and late game.
Absolutely. He got a little bit of a shot there of what these casters' desks are actually looking like. Kind of cool that they've got a massive chat next to them as well. These guys are really fun to watch. I remember back in the day, they actually used to like chug these drinks as well. I've seen them chug for a while. I really do want to see one game in this tournament where at least one of them just chugs a whole can of Hot 6.
We'll be waiting for that, guys. Look at them. They have so many hot lights on them as well. I'm glad that we're not in studio, although it would be epic if we had our own desk there, Shun. But all of those hot lights in your face while we're trying to cast, I mean, they do turn them off once the games begin, of course, but that's not my idea of a good time.
Yeah, it's not. And I mean, it's funny. When you're a kid, you might think to yourself, oh, I really would like to be a porn star or something. But the reality is like, can you imagine performing in front of those lights? Like, oh my days, no thank you. I don't even want to work in a hot kitchen, much less perform under the hot baking lights in the studio. It's ridiculous what they do to you. You can see just the shine on their foreheads of them beating down with these little micro suns in front of their faces.
You really caught me off guard with that one, Xun. Oh my goodness.
I got to throw a curveball for those guys with their bingo cards out there, you know?
Oh man. Yeah, that's something. That's something, all right. I guess there is a serious issue going on right now. Snow, you can see him in the background there. He's talking with the ref. I did say go, go, go a moment ago, but maybe something else came up. Maybe he's not able to play at his best. We want to let him take his time here, make sure that he's got everything perfectly set up before we get into this game. Here we go, guys. Perfectly fair, perfectly even. We don't want anyone to have an unfair advantage, so I'm glad Snow gets to take the time here with the pause to make sure everything's set up properly. He has the sound going, and we're into this one.
Yeah, I'm happy everything is like that is transpiring at the start of the game and not like while there's a Reaver battle currently taking place. That'd be kind of nuts. It looks like no early probe scouts sent out from either players to throw down any kind of proxy shenanigans. So so far so good. Snow just adjusting his hair, making sure his fringe is out of his eyes. It always blows my mind how big the fringes are on these guys. I mean, as a pro gamer, I would not want my hair to be getting in the way. So I'd be keeping it a little bit shorter than these guys.
Well, you just don't know anything about fashion, Xun. You're not willing to take an L for fashion? Come on, man.
No, I would wear high heels either, though, saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Gotta go for practicality over looking good. That's the stoic way.
I'd rather look like a complete dork and at least be comfortable.
Yeah, or perform. Performance is key.
Right.
But yeah, it is kind of crazy to have your hair right inside your eyes. I guess they get used to it after years and years. Maybe they've had that similar haircut since they were teenagers or whatever.
Yeah.
There are just a few basic haircuts in Korea, is what I've noticed.
Yeah, they are quite generic with the hairstyles. They kind of like rotate the same hairstyles for quite some years. And you don't usually see them flicking their hair like a scene kid very often, but it sometimes does seem like it gets in the way.
Yeah, I've never had that. I'm bald, so you know what it is. We've been we're far past that. We're way past that, and these guys are lucky. We don't even have one bald guy in the entire ASL, do we? Everybody's got a full head of hair.
No. Yeah, pretty much. Action's looking like a little light up there, but he's still trying to, keep the hair on for as long as possible.
I'm full practicality mode now. Just shave my head in the sink. Easy. Done. No, doesn't cost me a dime, guys. Absolutely. Nice. Absolutely maximum practicality. Now, we're having mirrored builds here. Things are about to get spicy, though. Both players. Well, actually, excuse me, Rain hasn't been able to scout yet. Snow has that information here in the main. He sees the range upgrade on the way. How will Snow react knowing that he's got an asymmetrical advantage in that scouting information?
Yeah, I'd be curious to see. We got an early second gateway from Snow already, which is a big deviation in this series. We haven't seen a 2-gate play after core yet, so if Snow can catch this scouting probe on top of that, that's going to be nice. There's no way of really saving this probe as long as he's microing this Dragoon. So we'll be able to shut this down eventually. Does pull this Dragoon out of position to potentially shut down one of Snow's probes here. But this Dragoon is getting dangerously close to being out of position. This is a little bit mistaken. He needs to pull the Dragoon back around about there, because any further and eventually Snow will get the intercept on that Dragoon in its path of retreat.
Yeah, the 2-on-1 losing an early Dragoon is nightmare fuel here for Protoss player. Snow is building up some extra gateways and going for a robo now. Are we going to see another gate or another Nexus? No. Rain going for 2-gate robo himself. So both players going a bit more of the conservative route.
Right.
And neither player going to be able to take an early expansion here just yet. Let's see how this first fight goes. Could be a very big momentum shift. Whoever gets the first Dragoon kill. Moving forward with the Zealot in the front of this army. Snow definitely has an advantage. Going to retreat right up the ramp. Can retreat to some of these rallies. Don't want to push up here just yet, but holding the bottom will be pretty strong. Oh, he leads with the probe there to suck up some damage. Now the Zealot up here on the high ground, getting some hits off. You really don't want to take any hits from that Zealot. It does a lot of DPS, and you should be able to just kind of run away from it and not allow it to take those hits. In the end, though, Snow is driven back. That was a bit of a sticky situation, but in the end, it
guaranteed
turns
the
out
scout for him.
Pretty standard, pretty even here. Just the scouting information is all Snow is able to gain.
Yeah, it looks like Rain does really want to expand here, or at least he's making it seem that way. Snow wants to be able to punish this at a moment's notice, but won't be able to come back in here and achieve that. It's 4-on-4 with defender's advantage. Now be 6-on-4 and take a lot longer for Snow's 6 Dragoons to meet up down there. So Rain should be able to come out onto the map a little bit more confidently now, especially identifying the exact positioning of Snow's Dragoons with his Observer play. You have to wait until you've got Observer tech on the way before you can even think about moving out onto the map confidently. Usually you're kind of taking a risk in any other time. Does see exactly the production timings. Oh, needs to be careful not to get this Observer snipe. That's a nice pickup from Snow, denying that vision advantage away from Rain. Now has to kind of, confidently move without any tells on what he should be doing. So probably wants to just tuck tail and run for the time being, because Snow will be able to use his own defender's advantage to get a big positional lead on dealing with these Dragoons out on the map. So it's much more wiser for Rain to just run back right now. If he does try and soft contain Snow, he could just lose all these Dragoons for free.
Adding in extra Zealots to this mix here, Snow. Usually we kind of see Zealots more often when you're trying to bust a ramp or bust down a ramp. But he actually adds in the Zealots pretty early on here. Maybe there was a hiccup with the gas. I'm not exactly sure on that, but he's got some gas banked up. He's got a Reaver out now. He's looking to maybe try to take this Nexus behind everything. Rain gonna try and push into this choke. That pylon there in the middle is pretty slick. Doesn't really look like it, but that might actually throw off Rain quite a bit as this push comes in. There's no shuttle here just yet for Snow, so he's actually going to dive on top here. He gets the shuttle. Big kill there. Now this Reaver can actually get a shot off. No way. He gets a shot without taking one. Okay, now he takes a shot on that Reaver. His own Reaver going to go down too. Rain losing that Reaver and getting pushed back here. The rallies are so much closer. I think that Snow's going to be able to hold this. It's one more Dragoon for Rain, but yeah, here comes that Reaver and, of course, more Dragoons. Great shot there. Great shot from that Reaver, actually cleaning out a lot of this. Good target fire, though, from Rain. Able to get another Dragoon. An Observer goes down for Rain, though, and Snow trades back. This is a pretty damn even trade overall, but I think both players going to end up taking a Nexus behind this.
Yeah. I mean, Rain's Nexus is slightly faster here, but Snow did trade out a tiny bit better than Rain in that overall. So even though this Nexus is a tiny bit faster, it's not going to make a big difference, especially with Snow slightly winning out on the trades. So I think this is still going to be a fairly even game with a tempo lead for Snow to maybe come in here and punish. Oh, if he's going to be hitting this egg right as Snow comes in, that's going to be problematic. Snow could potentially get on top of that, but he decides against it. Wants to instead consolidate his position before trying to pull the trigger on getting some damage against Rain. Doesn't want to risk throwing some units away for free at this stage. Wants to instead get some more additional gateways online and consolidating his position just a little bit further before he comes in here.
Picking up that second Reaver, heading across the map. This is going to be a lot of pressure placed onto Rain. Did he make another Reaver, or is this a shuttle about to pop out? That could be quite impactful in this next fight. Shuttle. So 2 Reavers with a shuttle versus 1 Reaver with a shuttle. At least he can juggle this to avoid Reaver hits. But he's got some Dragoons up on the high ground. Snow can definitely take advantage of this. He's got more vision than Rain right now. Trying to get some shots off here on the Reaver, trading out some Scarabs over and over. Dives forward, gets a one single volley here, and he gets the shot with the Reaver to connect. He was actually firing at the pylon, but Rain dropped right next to the pylon and takes some splash damage. This is a scary situation here for Rain. These Reavers are so close to the mineral line. If he gets a shot, if he sneaks in just a little closer, he can start to hit some of these Dragoons that are standing right on top of the mineral line. First, getting rid of this pylon. Rain is actually supply blocked right now. This is scary, guys. Snow going to keep rallying across the map. If he gets a couple of hits here, Rain is going to be toast. Has to keep that Reaver from taking damage. He's actually targeting on the Dragoons now. Dude, Snow is so good with this Reaver control. It's crazy. I don't know if Rain can hold this.
Yeah, he definitely does have superior Reaver control. It's also the shuttle control. Oh, almost gets a pounce on that shuttle. Takes it down to really low HP. Now Rain trying to get the snipe on the shuttle. Does manage to achieve that. Now trying to push out confidently onto these slugged out Reavers. Is going to be able to potentially beat this army, but Snow needs to just make sure he trades well enough on the exit. Does manage to take down the Reavers and shuttle before starting to run away. Rain now can pursue these and get a couple of these additional Dragoon kills while Snow is retreating. There is now a tempo swing going back into Rain's favor, but honestly, after trading out the Reavers before running away, Snow's not too worried about that. He's got a couple of extra Reavers waiting in their natural expansion. He's not worried about any counterattacks from Rain coming in and punishing him after being able to successfully snipe the shuttles like that. So really well played from Snow to make the best out of a bad trade and deny any possible counterattack coming up from Rain immediately, at least.
Yeah, sniping the shuttle there is kind of impactful. Means that Rain can't just immediately come across the map and reverse this pressure. But there will be shuttle and another Reaver out soon. Snow has 2 shuttles and a Reaver. Now again, he's got that shuttle speed. Might want to go for a dive on Rain. Rain already prepared for that. Look at that. 3 Dragoons on the high ground. If he flies into that, he could just lose everything. Rain supply looking much better with all these Dragoons in the middle. It's going to be hard for Snow to take a fight against such a larger army.
Yeah, and Snow's done a superior job in this series of sniping the observers of Rain and denying vision. So far so good for Snow, but he is behind the curve of the game ever so slightly here. Rain might just feel confident enough that he can even take a 3rd base in the next couple of minutes. You won't want to take it right this second, but he might set up to do that very soon and not need to necessarily attack Snow. He can just force Snow to come to him eventually by taking this 3rd base in the next couple of minutes. He's trying to maybe get a surround on this army. He's got so many units ready for a counterattack. Snow's in the center of the board. These Dragoons could surprise Snow, but it also means there's not much army to face off against this main force of Snow in the center. Snow smells this army out on the map, and he starts to rotate around to look for it for a second. He just barely misses it. And now he might be setting up for a massive flank on this southern threshold. Finally, this shuttle sees the Dragoons out on the map and he tries to reposition his army, but Rain still might be able to get on top of these reinforcements for Snow before he can get into position. Snow's thinking about where he should send this army. Should I go in for a counterattack or should I retreat and come back and help defend? He looks like he's going to be pulling the trigger on a counterattack here, but he did kind of hesitate for a few moments. That might cost him much chance at doing a lot of damage. Finally going to be trying to pounce onto this army of Snow in the natural location, and he's gone against his better judgment of attacking with a counterattack, instead pulling his army back to defend, but it might be too slow. Beautiful Reaver Scarab connection shot. Shuttle goes down for Snow, but there's so much meat to this army. Snow desperately needs to come in and counterattack from behind. He's just now starting to get there in the nick of time to start dealing with this, but there is still some play here for Rain to trade out really efficiently and put the hurt onto Snow.
Ooh, the Reaver coming in from the backside there. That Reaver doing so much work in this game. It does get taken out, but overall, Snow holds, and he is going to overwhelm and kill this army. At the end of the day, though, Rain's Rally point, pretty healthy. Snow had to use all of his rallies to clear that, and now a big advantage in terms of the supply. Another Reaver should be popping out here soon as well, and we're kind of in the same situation we were before that fight. With Rain just having a slightly larger army, still going to be hard for Snow here.
There's Snow taking a third base at 12 o'clock. If Rain doesn't scout this for some time, Snow will eventually catch up into the game, but it also pulls him out of position to defend this. So Rain just needs one good engagement to make this work. He is getting on top of this army that's slightly out of position. There was a bit of a concave for Snow to work with, but he doesn't have the superior count of Dragoons to bully those back and make use of that flank. So unfortunately, now Rain is going to both scout this Nexus at the 12 o'clock and have an opportunity to come in here and get the cancel. And now I do think Snow is going to have to cancel. It's going to be so hard to push up onto this high ground to save that. So we'll be slowing down this third base timing of Snow at the bare minimum. Might give Snow an opportunity to maybe think about a counterattack of his own, but really he probably wants to box in these Dragoons at the 12 o'clock location and try and isolate them from ever coming out efficiently. Rain knows that and has another contingency of Dragoons to the south ready to pounce on that army from both sides if Snow does try and challenge that.
Yeah, he's avoiding a flank here. Snow moves off to the right as those forces come up from the south. He's going to have to be quite careful here as Rain's supply is quite far ahead. Rain has done a great job of keeping up in the game, but hold on a second. This is going to be a lot of probe damage, and definitely So could just fly right on out of here, and no way to counteract that. It's a good thing that Rain hadn't sent all his probes down into the natural just yet. He just mined out in the main, so he has to transfer those now. He could have lost a lot more if all those probes were down in that natural, though.
Right, both players on one base, but Snow will mine out a little bit slower since his expansion was a little bit behind the curve. Is getting his third base ahead of Rain as well. So the longer this game goes on, the better it is going to be for Snow, but Rain still does have a tiny advantage and has position on Snow, almost catching that shuttle. Now getting some of these Dragoons caught out of position as well. Rain has a bit of tempo to work with despite being behind the economic curve of this game. If he forces the issue now and forces Snow to have to defend the 12 o'clock position, Rain can drive a wedge between these two armies and actually start to get a win right here, right now. Does manage to get 2 Dragoons on a bad movement command, so we'll be able to get some kind of efficiency here, but he can't really hold on to this 12 o'clock, and he needs to. Rain smells weakness, and he's going to try and pull Snow to the left and then flank from the right here with the rest of his army, and that might be the end of the game if Snow doesn't engage well. 2 Reavers going to be getting beautiful connections on those Goons to the east, while now starting to set up a flank on these other 2 Reavers for Snow. Beautiful play from Rain, outmaneuvering Snow in this game, and he should be able to close it out. GG is called, and he's closing the gap on Snow, bringing this series 3-2. Just 2 games more that he has to win in a row. Snow needs to stay calm and collected. He still just needs that 1 game away to get through to that semifinals, but Rain going to be feeling a lot better after this.
Damn, Rain held off that push into the natural in spectacular fashion. The pressure on there to Snow, not allowing him to take a third base. Really well played overall by him. I thought he was in quite a bit of trouble there over at the natural, but managed to hang on and actually trading with Snow. Reaver for Reaver, Goon for Goon. That's not what I was expecting. I was anticipating a more tactical series from Rain, giving him more wins, but funnily enough, it's been the Reaver Dragoon game that's actually given him his 2 wins so far.
Well, honestly, like Rain's macro play and fundamentals are just better than Snow's. That's the reality we have here. Whenever the game gets kind of crazy and chaotic, that's where Snow can shine. But if it's a straight up macro tug of war, then Rain usually will come out on top. So Snow needs to kind of do everything in his power to avoid the game becoming a tug of war slug like that, and instead be a bit more tactical and maneuver warfare based.
Quick little break here, guys. We're going to take a second, hit the washroom, grab yourselves a snack, grab yourselves a drink, and we'll be right back. Okay, guys, the series is really starting to heat up here. We had Snow with a big advantage. The gap is starting to close, though. Rain making this comeback happen still. Just one mistake away from being out in the round of 8. Will he be able to close here? Will he be able to bring this one back, or can Snow finish it off and get his vengeance for Season 5? That ASL Finals that Rain won. It was off the back of this guy right here, still yet to win an ASL Finals. Been cheering for him for a long time. He certainly deserved a win, but is this his season? He's got to make it count now.
I definitely think that Snow's the only one that could go all the way here. I don't think Rain has much chance against Sulky, for example, but Jorge is saying we're just going to be jumping straight into it. It's going to be map number 6 here, ASL Season 19, round of 8, Snow versus Rain, the map dominator.
Snow spawning over here at the bottom left. We got Rain in top left. And Xun, one thing we haven't seen so far in this PvP, which is a staple of any PvP, is that Dark Templar tech. Is this the game to pull it out? We're on Dominator. You've got a low ground main base. Triple gateway pressure is going to be really strong. And that means that DT is a very viable option.
Oh, you're not wrong about that, saying it's definitely probably the better map to pull out a play like that on. Instead, though, we've got a really fast probe scout coming out into the center to potentially throw out some 9-9 gates here for Snow. So I don't think we're going to be seeing DTs this game, because it's not even going to go that distance, saying it's going to be center 9-9 gates. We haven't seen Rain scout the center of the board yet at all with his probes like Snow likes to do. So I don't think Rain is going to identify this early. He's going to just come down to whether or not he can micro inside of his main base to prevent devastation. Snow could be going through to the next round right off the back of this cheese play if Rain isn't able to keep his wits about him and execute flawlessly in his defense here.
A down and dirty series we've got between Snow and Rain. You can't blame Snow for this at all, though. He's already had this happen to him once in the series. Rain went for this early on Metropolis, hiding the probe here just a little bit, delaying the scout by a few extra seconds to try and hide the build. He's actually going to scout in the wrong direction, and so he's not going to find Rain for a little bit longer. Just going to come in and check for the mineral patch, see if there's anything been mined here, and he should be able to turn, and he knows now where Rain is. Just a single gateway on his side of the map. Will he even build a zealot this game? Most of the time they have been building zealots, but it is possible to try and skip that. Could become devastating, though, for Rain. If he does skip over that zealot, he will be really ill prepared for this upcoming attack.
I doubt he will. I imagine he will at least build that one zealot initially, which will help him out in this game. I believe it just popped out now. We'll have some hope in blocking this scout, and then he doesn't actually block the scout. Wasn't positioned pixel perfect on that ramp. That's a little bit annoying, because now the zealot gets in even easier, quickly blocking his own pylon prison issue with shield battery, like you saw Snow do when he was the defender. So role reversal here, with both players knowing the correct moves to avoid disaster. Can Rain do a repeat of what Snow was able to achieve and successfully defend this flawlessly? So far, so good, but now we see the continuation of this prison. But now we have an early shield battery for Snow to work with, which is much better than we had in that game where Rain was the aggressor. So far, so good for Snow. He has continuation and contingencies to keep making these zealots have a lot more lifeblood in this assault by repairing their shields right away, like you just saw there. again. So the attack will go on, and this Dragoon cannot easily get away. It can still get out from the right-hand side, but if there's a Zealot blocking, it cannot. Rain is trying to block his own Dragoon from popping out, so it will go on the outside, but there was 2 Zealots waiting on the north as well to catch that, even if the probes were successful in pushing it to the top right. So really well played from Snow in getting the catch on that Reaver. This attack is going way better for Snow than it did for Rain.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of damage here. He put so much damage on this first Dragoon. Really has to be careful with that. If he takes any more hits, he's gonna end up losing it. Dude, he's so close to losing that Dragoon. He is gonna wrap around again, but he's actually getting caught here in this corner. Oh, he's gotta go through the mineral line. No, he can slip around that side. Another Dragoon pops out and gets caught. Dude, Snow is doing it here. He's actually managing to clear out Rain. Starting to kill a bunch of probes in this main base. He's succeeding where Rain failed and getting in on top of these units, killing off those probes now. Down to just 18 supplies. Snow continuing with this pressure. No reason to stop now. He's just killing off more and more probes and making his position better and better. Another shield battery finishes for Rain. I think he's going to hold here at the end.
Yeah.
With the Dragoon numbers getting a little bit higher, but the probe damage is undeniable.
Yeah, he will survive, but there might be enough probe damage here that he cannot win a continuation game. It's going to be a very close game, actually. I think with Micro, Rain has a teeny tiny chance of making this work. It's still going to be difficult. There's not going to be Dragoons for Snow for a long time, so he has to just rely on pure Zealot pressure to keep Rain pinned back in his main base and try and kill as many of these probes as possible. He doesn't want to transition and play with center gates like this. He wants to utilize these shield batteries while this pylon is still alive and really keep the pressure down all the way. Rain is technically alive in this game, but without that many probes mining, these Zealots can still potentially overwhelm this force.
Yeah, he's going to go into the mineral line again. How many probes can he actually get here? He is using the shield batteries to try and keep the probes alive. 1 probe goes down, 2 probes go down. This is massive damage on top of what's already happened here. He might even get another one. 3. Dude, there's almost no probes left. Rain, he's in so much trouble. Building a pylon here on high ground. Snow can just completely contain him at the top of from the top of this ramp. Keep sending Zealots in over and over again, and Rain just can't keep up with production. He's going to build cannons up here on high ground. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, this is the continuation because he knows once Rain gets out onto the map, he can't hold it. But Rain actually might be able to get out onto the map. You know, I think Rain can still make this work. There's just barely enough tempo for him to stop any kind of contain from transpiring and actually get a counterattack going. There's not going to be Dragoons for Snow for quite some time. He hasn't even got a core yet, for example. So actually, Rain can win this game still, despite how crazy it's looked. I know at home it's very difficult for you guys to understand exactly who's ahead, but trust me, there's a way of Rain winning this game. Snow is going to try and be really tactical and to try and do a run by with these Zealots, but Rain kept his own Zealots back to catch that if that does transpire. So far so good for Rain. He's not out of the game and has 2 Dragoons making their way downtown to the main base of Snow. There's a cannon on the way, but he has to pull probes to defend this.
Yeah, he has to pull probes, and that cannon's just about finished. He didn't have the pylon ready. Really wanted to get the pylon on Rain's high ground, and so didn't have a pylon here in time. He does get the catch here. Actually blocking these Dragoons out is pretty insane. And he keeps the 1 Dragoon on the low ground. He's actually going to kill that with just probes. Are you kidding me?
That's crazy.
Oh, that's so good for
mistake
Snow.
From Rain. Yeah, Snow's going to pounce on this opportunity now to get back into their main base and keep some pressure on with these Zealots and maybe catch another Dragoon that was destined to pop out in a moment. Though there's no Dragoon popping out just yet. Instead, they're going to be trying to bully back this Zealot and get on top of the probe line yet again, do some economic damage to Rain. He's already doing so good in this game. Has weathered the storm of those 2 Dragoons getting in and causing a nightmare and bypassing that cannon defense. So the 1 win condition for Rain has kind of evaporated. Now he's back on defense yet again. The game is definitely set in for stone for Snow going forward. He's getting a good drill on that Zealot and Goon as well to keep the damage alive here. More and more Zealots streaming in. Finally, the other Dragoon coming back to potentially defend against this, but has taken a lot of damage, and eventually Snow will finish up his own cybernetics core and start producing his own Dragoons in this game. So any probe damage is huge.
Oh, I think he right-clicked on the wrong shield battery there. He must have had some energy somewhere to heal that Dragoon, but he loses it. He's losing a lot of the DPS here back at home. Looks like he will clear this out eventually, but Snow, I mean, he can start to build cannons up on his high ground. Maybe take a natural. What is the plan here? The follow-up from Snow.
But he has to defend the center gates at all costs, so he doesn't want to necessarily just take the high ground and expand, because he does concede these 2 center gates very quickly by doing that. So I think he'll try and sandbag for some time and just play at a range disadvantage and allow him to come out onto the map and try and challenge these gateways, and then with his own Dragoons have a chance at bullying that back with a 2 Zealot, 2 Goon army to try and keep that at bay for as long as possible. Eventually he will have to sacrifice this center of the board and won't be able to keep these gateways online for too much longer.
Snow's got to have like 6, 8 extra probes. Definitely has a big advantage in income, but Bryan is hanging in there. He's gone up to 3 gateways now. He's going to make a lot of Dragoons here, guys. A lot of Dragoons are incoming, and I don't know if Snow can actually deal with this. Spots the gateways here in the center. A couple more Dragoons do pop out. Has Zealots with this as well, but with the range disadvantage, it's so hard to take an engagement with Dragoons. It's almost suicidal.
He has to get in there with the Zealots as well, and Rain can just like run back, shoot if he does try and commit to a chase. So he's just going to try and play keep away for as long as possible to keep the pylon alive, so he can still churn out units from those gateways and not lose any tempo in this game. If he does lose the gateways too soon, then he can't really stabilize the position. But so long as those gateways are able to produce out 2 Dragoons at a time, it's going to be much harder for Rain to get some tempo lead going, and will allow Snow to maybe get a good engagement with these Dragoons with his own range finishing up in just a moment here.
Oh, we've seen these guys kind of go past each other here. Snow now on the high ground. Does he have that range finishing up? He's going to walk backwards into a bunch of Dragoons here on the low ground. Some more Dragoons coming up from the left-hand side. Starting to go Snow's way a bit here, forcing these back, and he'll have to run away from this Zealot at least for a little while until he can kite that down. Snow takes control over this high ground, but again, it is 3 gates versus 2 gates. That is a pretty big advantage for Rain. The production really favoring him, the probe count not. Snow actually needs to hold on here, just keep things going, and he will have an advantage as time goes on, but for the time being, Rain still has a lot of Dragoons to work with. He has opportunities, and the moment that Snow loses control out here on the map, those gates are going down.
A 3 versus 3 gate with a gateway in the main base for Snow, so it doesn't even production, but these other 2 gateways are closer, so does have a little bit of a tempo lead with how long it takes for the additional walk time from the other gateway in the main base for Snow. So has some ability to come out onto the map and challenge this. If he can somehow snipe this pylon right now and deny some of this valuable production of Snow, that's going to be the one way of Rain winning this game. And Snow might barely not have enough production back at home with this one singular gateway and Robo to hold the line and stop Rain from coming in here and at the very least containing him on one base.
Well, this probe advantage just might not be able to get leveraged here by Snow with less production. Is really starting to lose control. He will cede the high ground to Rain for the time being. We'll have a Reaver out here shortly. And with that, may be able to push up this ramp again. Guys, we might actually get a crazy long game now. This could go back and forth. I'm not sure exactly who's going to win here. Would be insane. Probably our best game of the night if that were the case. Oh, he's actually going to come down the ramp? Oh, that's crazy. Just going for it.
Well, he knows there's a tech advantage for Snow, so there's going to be splash damage potential. He needs to get in and leverage this Dragoon count while he still can. He might just barely be able to do that. Cannon is making all the difference in the defense. Does snipe that out, but look at the trades really going Snow's way. Bit of a misstep here from Rain. He's going to just tap out in frustration. He knew that he had to pull the trigger just because of Snow's Reavers would eventually spell disaster. Having just pure Dragoon versus Goon, Reaver, and none of your own tech going up back at home. Rain felt pressure pressured to make something work. He can't just expand and defend in that situation. Doesn't feel so good. Somehow, some way, Rain was unable to deal with that attack, and it looked like for a second there Snow was going to be falling apart, but managed to do just barely enough damage to get the victory. And he's going to be sneaking his way into that round of 4 with a very happy face to show for it.
Wow, I'm kind of shocked here, guys. I really thought that we were going to see Rain just utilize that high ground, kind of buy time as the Reaver's coming up, you know, maybe get a snipe on that. At least force a really bad trade out of Snow coming up that high ground, but it decides to run into the base. That is the most insane decision of all. Crazy choice there from Rain, but in the end, Snow gets through, and I'm pretty happy, guys. I am pretty happy that we're going to have a Snow versus either Rush or Solkey in the round of 4.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about the decision to bust into the main base like that as Rain. I understand the thought process that he was having, but I mean, let's be honest, he wouldn't have been mined out so soon. Like, there was so much more probe saturation for Snow that he would have been mined out way sooner. There was way more pressure on Snow needing to bust out. And Reavers aren't so good at busting up ramps as well. So there's still counterplay for Rain available to him, and he could expand behind it. I'm not so sure I like this decision to just try and bust down the ramp like this. Yeah, it's a little bit strange to me. I'm not so sure what to make of that, but it is Protoss versus Protoss, so you can be damn sure there's going to be some monkey business no matter what transpires. And unfortunately, I feel like Rain just gifted Snow a big win here. I don't know what this decision was. It doesn't really make too much sense to me but I can see the whole map. So maybe to Rain, this makes a lot more sense because of the game state and understanding that there's Reavers soon to be popping out. Snow could also elevator out some units and to flank with from the right. That's also a possibility. So I think Rain was just worried about the game getting a little bit complicated and hard to keep track of, and wanted to try and simplify the game right then and there by pulling the trigger on a bust. But I personally don't agree with that decision.
Well, we got a little more information there with the replay. We were able to see that there was only 16 probes for Rain. 16 probes to 23, 24 probes for Snow. So the results of that early game damage really showing through. Rain must have felt like he just didn't have a good follow-up. With the number of probes he had behind that, he wasn't going to be able to play out a longer game, especially once Reaver was on the field.
Yeah. Snow is just so good at juggling any tiny advantage he had. We saw the shuttle picking up Dragoons and cycling them out, denying a lot of potential shots from going down on top of weakened Dragoons, and with the cannon also staying online for that long in the fight, just gave him enough DPS potential that even with a little bit of a Dragoon advantage, Rain was unable to overwhelm him. It was kind of crazy that Rain had a chance at coming back in that game, to be honest with you. Like, it was looked for a second there like Snow was going to fall apart and actually lose, but Rain being a bit generous and having a little bit of poor execution in that attack spelled disaster for him. And in a way, I think this is good for the tournament, Snow going through. I think Rain has pretty much 0% chance at beating Solkey in a best of 7, whereas I give someone like Snow like a 10 to 30% chance at being able to take down a series against Solkey, probably closer to 10 than 30. It is just that much of a dominant showing from Solkey recently that I'm being a little bit generous by saying 10 to 30, but it's somewhere in that range.
We'll see if Solkey even makes it through though, guys. That's tomorrow. We're gonna have Solkey versus Rush. Make sure to follow the channel, guys. Come over and make a Soup Live account. Watch these games live and like the video. Follow the channel. We're really looking forward to that TVZ. It should be a blast. Rush just took out, previous to this, he took out the second best Zerg player in the world, Hero. And now he gets the shot at the biggest, the strongest Zerg, and the strongest player in the entire world right now, Solkey. If he takes down Solkey, the entire tournament opens up. Anybody could win, guys. Right. But while Solkey is still alive here, he's still in this tournament, he is expected to win. He is the favorite. That is for sure. He's approaching that Bonjour status. He's approaching that legendary status with
Yeah.
a 4th ASL victory in a row. Absolutely incredible.
Rush is so good, though, so we're not saying by any chance that Sulky is a definite win in that series. If anyone's going to take down Sulky as a Terran, it's going to be someone like Rush or Light. Definitely Flash if he comes back and is playing at his best. But at the time being, there's not many Terrans that can take on Sulky. My money is still going to be on that champion tier Zerg Wall of Death that is Sulky. But Rush definitely has a chance at taking that series the distance, at least maybe a 4-2, 4-3 victory for Sulky. It's not going to be an easy 4-0, I don't think, for Sulky. He hasn't had the best of showings in the best of 7 series against Terrans all of the time. It's not like he's completely whitewashing out some of these guys, but I do think Rush is going to be able to have a pretty strong showing tomorrow. So I'm really looking forward to casting that.
No, that should be fun. Sulky did manage to take down Light in previous season in that a semifinal or a final, but it was in a completely different meta. When we had Kickback, he was using a lot of Crazy Zerg. I don't know if he can pull out Crazy Zerg as much in this current map pool. I'm really curious to see how he's going to play out as a Zerg player. I really look to Sulky, I think all of us do, to see what's the best way to play on these new maps.
Yeah, I think we might be seeing a lot of Hydra Defiler on some of the more macro-centric maps, like Polestar and Eclipse, obviously. But we'll have to wait and see how they want to approach Death Valley and Metropolis. Could be seeing some cheesy shenanigans there. It'll be interesting to see exactly what they have got in store for us. I imagine Sulky, though, is going to be giving us a masterclass on how to play Zerg on these newer maps. And we're going to be feeling pretty silly for not thinking about it beforehand.
Yeah, he's going to show us the best way to approach this, and all of your future ladder maps, what they're going to be looking like. Everybody going to be copying this guy after he shows us exactly how and which way is the best to play on these new maps. Now, this series is over, guys. No, he manages to make his way through. He's going to be waiting for the winner of Sulky versus Rush. I'm super excited for either him versus Rush or him versus Sulky. A rematch would be fantastic. After getting this big kind of upset, I think a lot of people thought that Rain was going to take this one tonight just based on his record. Yeah. But getting this upset and getting this vengeance, he's going to be looking for a repeat of that in the semifinals. If he could take on Sulky there, I mean, he's had so many different matches versus Sulky in ASL, and most of them have gone to Sulky. In fact, I think all of them have gone to Sulky, and so he's going to be looking for more revenge in that round of 4.
Well, historically speaking, Snow's not had the best Protoss versus Zerg. It's only in recent times that he's actually starting to do a lot better in that matchup. So maybe there's hope for him yet. We're seeing a little bit of a picture of Snow and his kids there. He's definitely more of a family man these days, but able to put in a lot more practice hours than someone like Rain is. So that's helped him out here today in getting the better of this so-called genius Protoss versus Protoss player. Maybe he needs to spend a little bit less time on League of Legends if he wants to hang with the best of them in this tournament in the future. I don't think he can get by being so cocky. I think people have started to figure him out a little bit. And this is a big confidence boost for Snow, getting that win against Rain in the favored matchup that Rain has. And going through, there's like a little bit of emotions here for Snow. He's getting super emotional all of a sudden talking about his family. And maybe this means a lot for him right now.
Yeah, this is a bit of an outpouring of emotion for Snow. He's such a likable guy. I'm really glad that he managed to make it through. You can see he puts his heart and soul into this game, and the way that he juggles Reavers, the way that he controls his Protoss units, it's so beautiful to watch. It's like watching Da Vinci paint, just standing behind him and watching him. Like, just incredible the way he's able to control and what artistry he can perform in the Protoss matchup.
I mean, all the remaining players are absolute killers, saying just because Sulky is the favorite to win this tournament doesn't mean it's 100% chance. I put people like Best and Snow at like a 10 to 30% chance at taking on Sulky on a good day, closer to 30% on a good day, closer to 10% on an average day. Anything can still happen. I really do hope that Sulky will have a hard time of it, at the very least being taken to game number 7 in these series, so we can see some really fun matchups regardless of who wins. But it would be super fun if someone like Snow, someone like Best manages to go the distance and dismantles the champion Sulky and gives us a Protoss ASL champion for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, that would be nice. I think that would be a great result. We've already got 2 Protoss in the round of 4. That's kind of incredible, considering that Zerg's been winning so much lately. Protoss, 2 chances, 2 opportunities to make it through to the finals, and then we'll see if we get either Protoss through to the finals. We might end up seeing Light versus Sulky. That would also be an awesome result. Basically, any way this goes, guys, it's going to be super hype.
Yeah. I'm really happy that Snow won tonight. Even though I did think Rain was going to be the one taking it down in the end, I'm so happy that Snow is the one that's going through, because I don't think Rain has any chance at winning the whole thing. But Snow does. That's the big difference. So Rain has no chance at all against Sulky in a best of 7. But Snow, like we say, 10 to 30% chance given how well he's playing on the day. So I'm still really hyped for there potentially being a Protoss champion, or maybe even a Light being champion yet again. Who knows? Even Rush. I mean, Rush is still a really deadly Terran player. Do not sleep on him as well. My money's still going to be on Sulky taking him down in that series, but anything can happen in StarCraft. Crazier upsets have occurred.
All right, guys, that's it from us. Thank you for watching. We're going to take off tomorrow. Sulky versus Rush. There's the map picks. We're going to have Death Valley, map number 5. We're going to start off on Metropolis. Should be an awesome round of 8. The final match of the round of 8. It's going to be super hype, guys. Don't miss out on it. We'll see you there.